Thanks for joining us in Talking Point. We're receiving a politician and educationist, Dr. Nick NGWANYAM MD. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Doctor, what's your analysis of the fire incident at Sonora over the weekend?
Well, 12 minutes after the fire started, I got someone who lives close to that place calling me to say, look, this thing has happened and we are so scared and so on. And so we were in the dark until some information started to filter in. But whatever the case, you know, we can say all what we want to say about what has happened. You know, we could all sorts of polemics. We could say we could play the politics around it, but we need to step back and then find out what went wrong. You know, it's clear, of course, that there was not a terrorist attack or something like that. I don't think it was a terrorist attack. You know, everybody tries to make some gain out of it. And I remember this one Cameroonian politician, I don't want to call his name, he went on the waves to say that it was the Americans who are responsible for setting fire to that. That's very outrageous a statement to make.
There's, however, an individual said to be a separatist who is claiming the fire incident.
Well, you know, sometimes when you are hiding in your little corner, sometimes you can say most of these things, but if he were to be caught and put in a hot seat, he would tell that he was lying. So sometimes it's just propaganda. But whatever the case, I think I've also heard some reports that the technicians or the technical team that is in charge of Sonora, I don't know whether this is true, that they have had issues of maintenance there for the past, is it 5 months or 5 years? I can't remember the figures very well. And you know, I'm tempted to believe that that is true, because we are not used to excellence in this country. There's a lot of half measures in this country, and sometimes we milk a willing cow to death. If we look at all our structures, you will see that. And so there's an issue of bad governance, bad management. We don't have preventive measures in place. We don't do preventive maintenance. And as long as the cow keeps giving milk, we keep milking it without looking after the cow. I think that's what the problem is.
And that puts question marks on the security of persons living around the area.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. And we can draw inference from that. Of course, when it comes to the health, there are health risks all over there, because there's a lot of acid and toxic gases that are liberated. Yes, all of those are there, given that the fires are still burning up to now, which is surprising to me, though. I'm also just surprised that with the explosion, you know, I think we just have to say we are lucky, and God is very kind, because with that explosion, the tongues of fire could have gone very far and burned most of the area around there. And we are just also very happy that there's no loss of life. You see, I mean, like with the government communication, they say, thank God there was no loss of life. But you know, we have this war going on, and people are just killing each other like that, and we don't care. So life is precious, and we need to preserve life, and we need to do everything that we can do to actually preserve life. We shouldn't be just killing human beings over here carelessly, and then when they say an accident over here, oh, thank God there was no loss of life. That means we actually realize and recognize the fact that life is precious, and we ought to preserve it.
All right, we're going to talk about the Anglophone crisis in a short while, but before that, the protests of the CRM political party militants over the weekend that met with severe military repression, though not as severe as that of the 26th of January 2019, but there was use of military force, or better still, forces of law and order who were deployed in their numbers to crack down on the protests.
Yeah, when you say that, I remember my trip. I made a trip to Bonaberi the day they were going to have that process. I mean that march or whatever, protest or whatever. And why I can remember it so well is that I saw police people sitting, you know, in those roundabouts on the new road in Bonaberi, and they were sitting in the grass. The grass is grown so tall, and I was looking at it and laughing. I was seeing our policemen sitting inside grass, and this is a new and beautiful road that was built. It's not up to 2 years old. I think it's just about 1 year old, and it's so dirty. There's grass all over, and it's very unsightly. And these people were well dressed with cars, sitting inside the grass, and I was looking at them and laughing at them. I said, why don't they do something about the grass? They can only go around and beat and kick people around. So it was just so funny. And just drawing from that experience, it comes back to say that we don't even know how to look after stuff in this country. So that's why everything is going down. That said, let's come back to the politics of the MRC. Well, there is a huge problem in the nation, there's no question. And I have said it here before, that this country needs to dialogue. And when we say dialogue, it means a man-to-man talk, where you talk with to one another with a lot of respect. But if we still govern in a way that we beat others and crack down on them, and we say we are the only ones who can talk, no one else can talk, then we create a problem and we create a lot of social tension. It doesn't matter what the issues are. As long as we are talking and talking reasonably and not dictating to each other, we can come out of it. And but if we keep behaving in a manner where we come out with a fist and punch each other, lock up, kick other people around, it's not a nice way of governing. And
while there are calls for those who are being detained, Professor Maurice Kamto, and the others to be set free, there are many who were still arrested over the weekend, and they are also in detention.
Well, I guess they just arrested them to just keep them so that the temper's cool, and then they are sent off home. But if they keep going to keep them there for a long time, then they are only creating more problems.
All right. Now, the Anglophone crisis, there has been much talk about decentralization and federalism and so on, that is referring to the form of the state. And now there is another new element that is coming in, the Confederation.
Correct. Yes, I actually crafted that Confederation thing. Not that it's a new idea, but I'm borrowing from countries that use it. I'm borrowing from Switzerland, from Belgium, from Britain, from Canada, and from the United States. They are confederations. And the concept of confederation works very beautifully. So because of the very complex nature of the problems in Cameroon, if we are going to say, okay, there's going to be I'm taking a cue from what the Prime Minister said as to what the nature of the dialogue will be all about. He says we are going to dialogue about the form of state, but we are not going to talk about cessation. So if I say, okay, and then also I also listened to His Excellency Nagi Tibor and the Americans saying they are not for cessation, and many others. So let's deal with what we have. So if we are looking at the package and say, okay, we're going to be looking at the form of state in our country and looking at all the problems that we have, what is the best solution that we can bring to bear in Cameroon? What is the best approach? People who are going for cessation, of course, they have their own arguments, but I'm trying to deal with what we have. I'm working with what I have in hand to solve the problems I have in hand. We have decentralization, because the government itself is saying we are going to leave this centralized form of government and go to decentralization. But if we are looking at the options, we have only decentralization, federation, and then confederation. So we have decentralized, we have a centralized government over here and confederation over here, and therefore as you start moving from the centralized unit as we have it now in Yaoundé, you go past decentralization, come to federation, and you upgrade to confederation. And it is that upgrade that I'm talking about. Decentralization is not even something we should be thinking of. People who have been working in the central government, they are so used to power that they won't let it go, so they will hang on that and tell Cameroonians that this is the best that we can give you. No, it's not about you giving people, it's about people choosing what they want. And decentralization is not good, and I'm teaching the people that they have to choose confederation.
So what is the content of confederation?
Confederation it best solves our problems under these circumstances, in the sense that we are dealing with two separate states. That's the first place where we are starting off with. We are dealing with Southern Cameroon, or West Cameroon, as if you care. Then we are dealing with East Cameroon. I don't want to use the word La République du Cameroun because it brings confusion. Now let's stick to the terminologies that would make things very clear in people's minds. So we are dealing with a part of the nation that speaks French, and they were under French colonial rule. Then we are dealing with the part that speaks English, and they were under the English colonial rule or whatever. I don't want to go into polemics now. And they were by 1961, before they came together, they were actually two separate states, and under the Federation, they still existed as two separate states. Then sometime in 1992, the boundaries were blurred, and that created the problem that we are living today. So we are reverting back to a situation where we can identify these two states, and then now we craft new laws and the ways of doing business which recognize these states as individuals. Then I say that inside each state, we cause decentralization under each state, so that people of the Southwest, for instance, who are so scared of people of the Northwest, they can do their business unperturbed. So that people from Marwa, I'm sure you saw on social media the kind of primary school we have in Marwa. They have thatch houses and there's nothing. So that those people in the North, they can build their own schools and don't wait for somebody from the South to come and build a school for them, so that people can be able to do their business. And then, of course, we get rid of all these chefs and administrators and so on. I mean, people will choose how those that administer them, so that ENAM will have no more raison d'etre. Then we can people like Bilingualism Commission, Social and Economic Council, and many of these things will be put out of the way, so we can see clearly. Even the Senate has no use when we get to that confederation. We'll have the West Cameroon Parliament or Southern Cameroon Parliament, we have the East Cameroon Parliament, we have a confederal parliament with fewer parliamentarians, and then the size of the government as we have it now, you can shrink that into 21, and then make sure that you are sharing the post in a very equitable way between the two states, because at this time now, you are not talking of 2 provinces versus 8 provinces. No, there are 2 states. One state, doing business with the other state. That's where it is. And then the beautiful thing, of course, is that, of course, we can have 2 currencies. The Southern Cameroon can have her own currency and her economy and do whatever she wants with it. And then East Cameroon would have its own currency. And then these 2 currencies, they can be used interchangeably. And many more other things.
All right, Doctor, that's the best option according to you now to solve the current problems we have in Cameroon. We'll certainly have more time, some other time, to talk more about this. Thanks for coming, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Goodbye.